Ecclesiastes 2:1-15. Everybody knows who Solomon is, right? And his name is Solomon. And the book God gave him to write was Ecclesiastes. If anybody is qualified to tell you about the life, your life, my life, anybody's life, it's Solomon. I mean, here's a man who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was the son of a king. In Ecclesiastes chapter 1, the first 3 verses says, the word of the preacher, the son of David, the king in Jerusalem. And he says, vanity, vanity, saith the preacher. Vanity, vanity. All is vanity. So what advantage does man have in all his work, which he does under the sun? What are you doing under the sun? Solomon opens up his book and he tells you, when he opens up the book, I really don't have anything to talk to you about. The word vanity means emptiness or worthlessness. That which is without purpose. That which is without purpose. That's vanity. He opens up his book and he's talking about his emptiness. Solomon's talking about this. His emptiness. If any man should have been empty, it should have been Solomon, not have been Solomon. Because he had everything you and I dreamed for or longed for and what we go after. And yet, his first words are, vanity, vanity, saith the preacher. All life is vanity, emptiness, purposelessness. And that's why we spend so much time to give us a sense of worth or significance and well-being. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as you look like you found it, you lose it. It's like when you score a touchdown in life. Things are great. Hands are raised, smiles, yells, and everything. You cross the goal line and, yay, I feel great. Oh, I'm going to throw that ball up into the stands. And then somebody throws a flag and you got to go back 15 yards. Or it's like the 4th of July when you see the fireworks display. And that goes up in the air and there's a big boom and it lights up the sky. But seconds later it disappears. And you get this big explosion and the light in the area, and you're excited for that moment, but then it's all dark again. Because we love for that thing that will give us a sense of substance, significance, and worth. Something that will give you value. But for so many people, life is like poking your finger into a glass of water, lifting it up, and then watching for the hole that you leave behind. Because as soon as you impact it, boom, the hole is gone. The hole is already filled up. And so purposelessness is what Solomon wants to talk to you and me about. People spend so much time trying to fake it to make it. And we see that in a lot of people, don't we? In order to at least give an impression, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. It's like a man who has a beware dog sign, but there's no really dog. We put on clothes to give a sign that I'm somebody, I'm wearing Versace, whatever. We drive cars to give a sign that we are significant. We hang out with people who will give others the impression that I'm somebody because I hang out with that certain individual. Anything that will give us a sense of non-vanity, the lack sense on non-meaning and lack of purpose, the sense of emptiness that engulfs us. Solomon's message is very simple. If you forget everything that I say is in the next few moments, remember this. Because if you remember this, you will have remembered everything. Solomon's point is that when life gets disconnected from God and eternity, it inevitably becomes meaningless. Life becomes meaningless when it's disconnected from God and eternity. To say it another way, life becomes meaningless and without purpose when I get disconnected from God and eternity. The whole 12 chapters of the book of Ecclesiastes is about life under the sun. And that means the life on earth, in time and space. When man live, work, and play and raise families, that's life on earth under the sun, where humanity operates. And he says, when your life under the sun gets disconnected from life above the sun, when your life, my life, our life gets disconnected from God and eternity, the perspective, you can expect to be able to say, as he says, vanity of vanity, saith the preacher, all is vanity. So Solomon's going to take us on a little tour of his life. He gives us a sampling of how he tried to fill the hole that he was feeling, to fill that hole that is in our lives, that's deep down in our soul. A hole so big you can drive a Mack truck through it, and some of you can feel that and have felt that. And yet he wants to get it filled, and we want to get it filled. So in chapter 2 he says, I say to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure. He says, the test I'm going to give myself is, I'm going to party. I'm going to party. I'm going to party hardy. I'm going to have a good time, he says to myself. Let me test your life. Let me find out what life is all about with a party. Everybody likes a party. Everybody likes a party to be able to have a good time. He says, let me just have a good time. So if I can have a good time, then I can feel alive. Have you ever felt alive just in a party? I'm sure you have. I have. So what did you do to have a good time? Because he says in verse 1, go ahead, enjoy yourself. He says in verse 3, I explore with my mind how to stimulate my body. I want my body to feel something. I want to feel something, he says. And so he says, I drank wine. I drank wine till I couldn't handle it anymore. I tested that pleasure that would turn my body on, so that I would feel the sense of life and purpose. Many people have tried that. He says, I tried it. I tried to have a good time. Oh, yeah, it was fun, he says. It wasn't silly. And it tastes great. But it was less filling. We've seen that on a commercial, haven't we? So some of you know what that is talking about. He says, I sought pleasure. Notice his words. He says, I enlarge works, and I build houses for myself. I planted vineyards for myself. I made gardens and parks for myself. That's in verse 5. Verse 6, I made ponds of water for myself. He says, I collected for myself silver and gold and treasures of kings, provinces. I provided for myself, he says. I had male and female singers. I had many concubines. We all know that. And you said, I did all this for myself. Some of you are saying you're doing this for yourself. Because I wanted to feel it. So I spared no expense, he says. So here was a man who didn't have to go out to a party. He was the party. And he could afford it. He brought in the bands, he brought in the singers, he brought in all the people, he brought in the booze, the drugs. He could buy it because he was the king. And nobody could deny him. So how did the pleasure work out for you, Solomon? How did the party work out for you? How did the good times roll? He says in verse 11, I considered my activities which my hand had done, and the labor which I exerted, and behold, all was vanity. And it was striving after the wind. And there was no profit under the sun, he says. He says, after the party, emptiness set in again. After the people left, dryness set in again. He says, if you want to know what I'm talking about, he says, every one of you can test it for yourself. Some of us have. When you leave here today, because it's like striving after the wind, so when you leave here today, go into the parking lot. Wait for that first breeze to come by. And when it does, grab it. Grab a handful of the blowing air and hold on to it. Don't let it go. Don't let it escape. He says you will discover that when you strive after that wind, as soon as you grab it, you just lost it. He says, it was vexing to me, and it was vanity. Not because it wasn't fun. It just had no meaning attached to it. No purpose attached to it. He's talking about emptiness of life under the sun. That is disconnected from God. So he tried something else. He says, I'll get educated. Verse 12, so I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what will the man do to come after the king, except what he already has done? And I saw that wisdom exceeded folly, as light exceeded darkness. A wise man's eyes are in his head, but a fool's walks in darkness. And yet I know one fate will befall them both. Then I said to myself, as the fate of the fool, it will befall me. Why was I then more wise? This also is vanity. So Solomon is saying the Bible says that the wisest man that ever lived, nobody was more brilliant than him. Nobody had more knowledge, understanding, and wisdom than Solomon. So we're just liking to education because he knew stuff. Education is big. He says the wise man is better than the fool. It's better to go to school than not to go to school. It's better to be wise than to be a fool. But then he says, one day I was looking out the window and I watched the fool walk by. This was the kindergarten dropout. And he says, as I watched this fool walk by, he says, I was better off because I had some knowledge and I was better than the fool. But then I got depressed. So what happened to you, Solomon? He says, one fate shall befall us all. My education won't keep me from the grave, my degrees. In fact, the matter is, the kindergarten dropout may live longer than me. He doesn't have a degree. He says, death is the great equalizer between the fool and the wise man. As educated as you are, you graduated from high school, and some have graduated from college and got a degree. Some have gone back and got a master's. Some have gone back and got a doctorate. So, I got bad news for all of you. It's the same news. That your education, knowledge, understanding, and information base will not keep you from the grave, because you're under the sun. And everybody under the sun says, he says, shares the same fate. So he could not find meaning in education, because it wasn't going to keep him alive any longer. And so, as beneficial as wisdom was, he was reminded that one fate befalls them all, and therefore he could not find meaning. He says, this also is vanity. There is it without purpose. It's beneficial, better to be smart than to be dumb, he says, but it does not give you purpose. So people going to college, yes, it will increase your capacity to know things and to interact with things. He says it does have benefit, but it doesn't give meaning. And that's why so many college students wind up living for a party while they're in school. He says, let me try something else. The party didn't do it. The education didn't do it. So he says, let me try something else. Oh, I got all this money. But money, money, money. Money, money, money. Verse 18. Yeah, we all heard that song, didn't we? He says, then I hated all the fruits of my labor, for which I had labored under the sun, for I must leave it to man. And who will knows what he will be, a wise man or a fool? Yet he will have control over all the fruits of my labor, and the fruits of my labor, and that's your money, and the stuff money can buy. The stuff you can accumulate with money, fruits of your labor, the productivity of your life. He says, I looked at it and all I accomplished, he says, I'm a mega billionaire. He says, I'm going to leave it to the one who should come after me. Some of us think about our kids, and do we want to leave our will to them? And who knows whether that one who comes after me will value it as I have valued it. Some of us are scared to put our own kids in the well, because he says, I worked for like a dog to build up this nation, and then I got to leave it after I birthed it and I developed it. And suppose somebody comes after me who messes over what it took me a lifetime to construct. He says, I thought about it. All I could say is, this is vanity also. It's an emptiness. And so all of you got, if all you got is life under the sun, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because there is no purpose in prosperity under the sun. It's a disconnect from God. It's reality under the sun if you live your life only underneath the sun for time and space and the five senses. If that becomes the sum, the total definition of your life, you will just have vanity. And that's the vexation of the spirit. And so many, even Christians, become like that. Even Christians climb the ladder of success only to find out that it was leaning against the wrong wall. They climbed the ladder, they got there, they say, vanity, vanity, saith the preacher. So that leads us to the most famous chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. There's a time for this and a time for that. A time to live and a time to die. Time to plant, time to pluck, time to laugh, a time to cry. And he goes through this in the first half of the chapter 3. So what he's saying to us, he's saying, I got bad news for you. You and I live in a closed universe. Because as soon as you find out that there is something to laugh about, something else is going to happen to make you cry. As soon as you find out peace, something else is going to turn up and break it into a war. You are locked in a closed universe and there's no escape. That's why there are people looking for a way to escape, because they're trying to break out of this closed universe, because they feel stuffed, stymied in things that they cannot control. That makes life hold them a hostage in a way they don't want to be jailed in. God, why are you doing this? He says. What profit is there to the worker from which he toils? I have seen the task which God hath given the sons of man with which to occupy themselves. Okay, wait a minute, God. You did this on purpose? I've seen the task, because living is work. He says, I've seen the job description that God has given men under the sun with which to occupy. So God, why do you have me trapped in this thing called life, when all I've got to look forward to is death? Oh, he kind of helps us in verse 11. He has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also set eternity in our hearts, yet so that men will not find out the work which God hath done from the beginning even to the end. I know there is nothing better for them to rejoice and do good in one lifetime more than every man who eats and drinks. See, God, good all in all of his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will remain forever, that there is nothing to add to it, and there is nothing to take it from it. For God has so worked that men should fear him. Oh, wow. God has boxed you and me in to time and space and made it so we cannot break out of it. To force us to him, he has set eternity in your heart. Now you may not know it, but that longing for fulfillment, God said, is longing for him. That longing for purpose is a longing for him. So he has set it within time and space, an empty spot that we can try to fill with cheap substitutes in order to find meaning that can only be discovered in him. And he did it on purpose. He set eternity in your heart so that deep down where you live with you, unless you cover it over with fake stuff, there is a hole that only he can fill. So he wants life under the sun to get connected with life above the sun. He wants your human life to be connected with God and eternity. And to the degree that you connect eternity to time is to the degree you change vanity into victory. But as long as you're disconnected, you're trapped in something you cannot change. You see, you are not living in the land of the living. You're living your way to the land of the dying. You are living in the land of the dying on your way to the land of the living. So if you think this is it, you're going to live like this. And if you know that this is not it, then you will live as though it is not. And you will find life in that approach. You're living from time you were born to the time that you go to the grave. This is not the land of the living. It is on the way to the land of the dying, and there's what is the way to the land of the living. And so much of that eternal connection with that eternal perspective is God's answer of purpose and meaning. He said it is good for a man to enjoy himself and to enjoy life. God doesn't mind you having fun as long as it doesn't exclude him. He doesn't mind you to enjoy life. It is a gift of God. So don't miss that. Don't misread that. He says life is a gift of God. What it doesn't say is life is God. Life is a gift from God. It is never to become God. So the moment you make your life a God instead of a gift from God, you just made your life an idol that competes with God. And so many people live their lives as though their life is God, and they will never respect God, and God will never respect an idol, even if the idol is yourself. Life without God is like a needle without thread, or a pen without ink. He says, enjoy life. Just don't disconnect it from me, he says. All that's legitimate to enjoy. 1 Timothy 6 says, God has given you all things to enjoy. If God has given it, and God is not excluded from it, God says enjoy it, maximize it, but don't disconnect it. And so he closes with the last chapter of the book, chapter 12. If anyone under 40, and pay close attention, I don't think there's anybody under that here, because 40 was a generational switch in the Bible. Once you hit 40, you're now in the next generation, which means you're going downhill. You're going south. In chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes, verse 1, it says, remember your Creator to the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, when you will say, I have no delight in them. A lot of people want to give themselves to God when there is nothing left to give. They want to read the Bible when they can't see. They want to hear a sermon when they can't hear. They want to serve God when they can't get out of bed, because he spends a chapter about Bible parts wearing out. And he talks about eyes going dim and ears that can't hear and legs that can't walk and arms that can't grab. Now you're old and you want to give yourself to God. He says, remember your Creator when you still have eyes, when you have ears, when you have legs, tongue, mind, and strength. Remember your Creator, the God of the universe, in the days of your youth. Remind your children of this. Remind your grandchildren of this. Remember the Creator. when they have capacity to do something for eternity. Why? The last two verses, the conclusion. In verse 13, when all has been heard, is to fear God and keep His commandments. Because this applies to every person, all of you. For God will bring every act to judgment. Everything which is hidden, whether it is good or evil, will be known. Because you're going to have to meet God one day. Whether you want to or not. It ain't over till it's over. And we're going to have to meet God. Everybody will. So since we got to meet Him, we don't have a choice. And He offers us a purpose. If we meet Him now, and then just not want to meet Him then, enjoying the good things He has given us along the way, there are good things that He has given us. We all have them. Like I said last week, time, talents, and treasures are yours. And He says you can have victory and not vanity in that.
Amen.